we're going to cover sections 2.1 and 2.2 together. So in your book there, 2.1 is about adding signed numbers and 2.2 is subtracting signed numbers. So in these videos we're going to do 2.1 and 2.2 together. So the first video will be about the simpler version of adding and subtracting signed numbers. Second video will be when we add a little extra complication to it. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to explain adding and subtracting signed numbers differently from the way the book does. So if you're looking back and forth between my videos and the book, don't try to make them match because they won't. Some parts of them will, but some parts of them won't. So some of you might like the way the book is explaining it better, and some of you might like my method of explaining it better. Take whatever works for you, but don't necessarily try to make them match up. So, and I'll let you pause the video if you want, if you're interested in this. There's some homework problems that, because I'm explaining it differently than the book is, I would let you off the hook on doing these problems. But go ahead and do it if you want to, but pause the video if you'd like to skip them. Okay, so want to make sure you know that all numbers have signs. So when we talk about signed numbers, really all numbers are signed numbers. It's just that in most numbers that we work with in everyday life are positive, and so we just don't write the positive sign next to it. But here's some examples down here. When we talk about 5, we really mean positive 5. When we talk about 2.34, we really mean positive 2.34, and that's true for fractions also. The one exception of numbers that you're used to working with that doesn't have a sign is 0. It lies right on the boundary between the positive numbers and negative numbers. So just to make sure you're thinking of some examples of negative numbers, if you grow up somewhere other than Western Oregon, you might be used to temperatures that go below 0. So 10 below 0 is negative 10 degrees. And hopefully you've never had the experience of, if you're overdrawn by $20, your account balance can show up as a negative 20. So that's just, those are quick examples of negative numbers. So one way to represent signed numbers, and the way we're going to do it for now, is to put them on a number line. So this number line has a 0 in the middle, and then to this direction are the positive numbers. Positive direction goes to the right of 0, and then to this direction are the negative numbers. And that's also, we call that the negative direction on the number line. So we're going to use this number line to think about adding and subtracting negative numbers, or signed numbers, sorry. So hopefully you all know what the answer to 2 plus 3 is. I hope you think it's 5. So now I want to just show you what that looks like on a number line. So the way we're going to talk about this is in our problem down here, we're going to talk about the first number in our problem 2 plus 3. The first number tells us where to start, so that's right here. The sign in between tells us which direction to go. So if you look at that positive sign, that tells us go in the positive direction. And then the second number tells us how far to go. So that's what we're doing up here. So we start at 2, go in the positive direction 3 times, and we wind up at 5, and that's why 2 plus 3 equals 5. So I know you don't need me to tell you what 2 plus 3 is equal to, but I'm using that as an example because that's one I think you know what the answer should wind up. Now we're going to use that same technique on some slightly more difficult ones. So let's do a quick subtraction just so you remember how that works. So same thing, we start, if our problem is 3 minus 2, we start at 3. We go in the negative direction, and we do that twice, and we wind up at 1. And you knew that 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So the system works in the same way. So if you need to, pause the video and study this, because this is the thing that we're going to be working with. Okay, so now think about an example of a negative number problem. So imagine that your bank account is $5 overdrawn, and you deposit $3 in it. So what's your balance now? So if you think about, so let's go back, just look at this. So my balance now, so I started out $5 overdrawn, so I'm at -5. And then if I deposit $3 in, that means I'm going to put $3 in it. And then I'm going to put that together. If I start out $5 overdrawn, I put $3 in, I'm going to end up only $2 overdrawn. And so that's the mathematical equation that we would write for that. But this means -5 plus 3 should be equal to -2. So we do that on our number line, start at -5, go in the positive direction 3 times, and I wind up at -2, which is what we just said. So this is a system for taking an addition or subtraction of positive and negative numbers and arriving at the correct answer. So if we try -1 minus 3, start at -1, go in the negative direction 3 times, and I wind up at -4. So again, this is describing what we just did. So what we do with big numbers, we don't want to draw a huge number line out, number it all the way to -650, but you can still think of the number line. So think of 0 here. Think of the concept. I'm still going to start here. So I know I'm going to start at -650, and this tells me I'm going to go in the negative direction. So that means I'm going to go this direction, and I'm going to go 999 times in that direction. So you can think to yourself, well, that means I'm going to get much more negative. So it means what I'm really going to do is do 650 plus 999, which is going to give me 1649. But it's going to be negative 1649 that I'm going to wind up at because I started at -650, went more negative by 999, wound up at -1649. So the same idea with this sort of thing. If I have -2.5 plus 9.3, I don't have to do it exactly on the number line, just conceptually. I know I'm going to start here at -2.5, and I'm going to go in this direction because I'm going the positive direction, and then go by 9.3. And so you know you're going to go 2.5, and you haven't gone 9.3, so I have to go more in this direction. And to figure out how much I have left to go, I'm going to do this. So that's going to be what, 6.8? So that means I'm going to wind up here at 6.8 when I'm done. So I'm using the number line concept without specifically jumping the steps like we did when we were learning the original ones. And then same thing with fractions. If I'm starting at -1/2, just study the number line enough so that you know that -1/2 would be right here. And then I'm going in the negative direction 3/4 more. So you know I'm going to start at -1/2 and go more in the negative direction. So that means I've got to go out here and think, well, what's 1/2 plus 3/4? That's 2/4 plus 3/4. That's 5/4. But we know that where we're really going to wind up is at negative 5/4, and we don't really have to worry too much about where that is on the number line. It's just knowing that we ended up having to add the two fractions even though they looked like they were being subtracted. So practice some of those, replay the video if you need to, and try to get comfortable with this idea, and then we're going to go on to the slightly more complicated version in the next video.